Welcome to Season 2 of the Retail Tea Break. My name is Melissa Moore, founder of The Retail Advisor. As a consultant, mentor, trainer and lecturer, I enable retailers and makers to reach their potential through sales growth and excellence in customer experience. I'm also your host of the Retail Tea Break. Each week, I'll be joined by industry experts, retailers and makers to decode the myths, share stories, and their insights into this industry of ours. So if you enjoy listening to the Retail Tea Break, subscribe to the podcast and share it with others in the industry too. So sit back, grab that cup of tea and listen in. Welcome to the Retail Tea Break. Today, I'm so excited to be joined by a true retailer. From founder of her own luxury e-commerce site to managing director of an online platform with over 180 million registered users worldwide. And she's received an MBE for her services to fashion. This retail expert truly understands e-commerce, data collection, and most importantly, the customer. Sarah Curran-Usher, MBE, welcome to the Retail Tea Break.
Hi there. You know, it feels really weird when you hear that sort of laid out. It's like, gosh, it's only me.
And you know what? And that's what I love. And that's what I'm so excited about this chat is that you are an ordinary retailer. And I mean that in the nicest possible way, but you've just been in the industry for so long. So look, in the time it takes to boil a kettle, which is about 2 minutes, Tell us all about your background and you kind of in the retail industry.
Yeah. So I will start by saying I've never really had any formal training in business or in retail. I went into retail opening my first fashion store in North London, which became a bit of a destination store. And the reason why it became a destination store is because I think we applied a little bit of emotional intelligence in terms of let's make this a really special environment. Let's create something that feels like a real treat. Let's make sure she leaves with beautiful sort of logoed bags and, let's do trunk shows and let's do private sort of personal shopping sessions. And it became really popular. And then we moved that business into online. But I still took this approach of how can I make the customer feel really special and feel that they've treated themselves with their purchase, whatever the price point is. And that's where I always come from a place of really being passionate about the customer and understanding her at a real kind of small and nuclear level.
It's incredible. And I love the way, even back then, and we're talking realistically, 20 years ago, you were talking about customer experience then. You're talking about emotional intelligence. These things were unheard of. Let's be really honest. This wasn't the done thing.
No, I think it was very much retail was led by men in suits, and it was commodity. Whatever the product was just a commodity. And I feel that when you are talking specifically to a customer about fashion, and let's face it, don't get me wrong, the business of fashion, I find it fascinating. It's hugely important to our economy. However, fashion itself is there to make the customer feel delighted. And that's really what it's all about at the end of the day. So I always come from that place versus a suit that looks at, what is the direct ROI? Don't get me wrong, ROI is super important and I'm not denying that. But I think sometimes we need to understand at a broader, more holistic level what certain sort of ROIs should be. Should they be hard or soft KPIs?
That's incredible. And I suppose you were at the kind of leading edge of fashion, even in bricks and mortar back then, but you were also there, I suppose, at the beginning of fashion's kind of going online, the whole e-commerce phenomenon as it began. What was that initially like?
It was a huge learning curve. So everything that we did was done from a place of learning and trial and error. So there was no sort of PDF or online course or YouTube video about creating an online store, e-com store. And it was very much trial and error, even down to returns. So we would send out the packages and the orders, and then sometimes they would come back and I'd be like, holy cow, why don't they like it? What's wrong with it? And it was only then that you go, okay, I've got it. So it's like, when I've got my pet store in North London, Kirsty might take the item into the fitting room. She might go and buy it, or she might not, or exchange, and it was just this, essentially the fitting room happened to be wherever they received the order and tried the item on. And so all these things were really learnt through our own discovery. And so I've kind of, during the last 20 odd years, I've just retained this sort of almost barometer understanding of the impacts up and downstream for the retailer, but also the customer as well. So I love my job. I love retail. I love the customer, and I want the customer to feel special about their purchase and feel that they are, that retailers value them. I think that's really important as well. I'm a customer at the heart of it.
Yeah.
And then I'm a retailer.
And I 100% agree with that. And I think with everything I've read that you've said, and with the kind of the videos, or even, as you said, the YouTube kind of interviews that you've done, you are the consumer. You seem to put yourself in the position of being the consumer wherever you've worked to make sure it works for that retailer.
Oh, totally. But that to me seems so logically normal.
Yeah, but it's not done.
But and that's what's so bizarre. And I think this because I've come from, I didn't follow the traditional route, and I've done things differently, and I've done things outside of the norm because I've done it from a place of what seems right at this moment, a kind of a clean piece of paper versus a legacy or something that we have to keep doing because this is how we've always done it. One of my absolutely most hated phrases ever. So yeah, so it's kind of a tricky one, because for me, it just seems like a total no-brainer to always put yourself at that, through the customer's eyes, and sort of live and breathe that experience through their eyes.
I absolutely completely agree. And it definitely seems to be the retailers, be it physical or online, that are getting it right now are the ones with that customer centricity. They are the ones that truly believe that every decision in the organization has to be made with the customer in mind. But bringing us back then, as I said, you've been in the industry so long, and I have to stop saying that because it's not an age thing, but I think it comes with this true experience and expertise that you have. You saw the kind of avalanche of fashion fall into e-commerce. You've seen that grow and grow. And you were really involved in the digital space even pre-COVID. Was it starting to change even before the pandemic?
It was changing, but it wasn't changing quick enough. We were still moving at this super slow pace. And I understand why. And it was because many retailers and brands were setting out their digital roadmap, but we were at the time expecting to start to see this increase around 2025, and then through to then the last half of the decade. And what COVID did was just warp speed, bring that really into a very condensed moment. And many retailers weren't prepared for it. Their roadmap was really out of sync with what they needed to do and the pace that they needed to go. And so it was a real wake-up call. And the thing that, again, the reason why I love e-com so much is that it is fast. It moves at a pace that is really inconvenient for retailers. And it means that you are never at a position of, okay, we're done. Because the customers are constantly consuming, everything that's digital. So they are becoming more and more native and moving into these other touch points. And so everything, you can buy a car now through an app without even having to, I've bought wedding dresses, sofas, beds, everything, without the need to go in and touch it and feel it and try it on, or sit on it or lie on it. And so with that pace, the retailers and brands need to constantly keep on, ahead of where their competitors are, but not too far ahead of the customer, just at that point where, you're not losing them, but you're not boring them either. And innovation is really important, but don't waste my time with innovation that's just gimmicky. Waste my, bring and enhance an experience that saves me time, that gives me greater personalization, that enhances browsing. And I love it. That's what I love about retail. And retailers and brands do need to get a little bit more sort of up with the pace. That's really, really important. Sometimes we're not agile enough, we're not fast enough to keep up with this new sort of acceleration, which is so exciting.
And that leads me beautifully into, tell us all about TrueFit, because this to me is the innovation. This is where it really works with the customer. It helps, supports the customer, but my goodness, it to me is using the best of all the customer experience, all the retail tools. It's win-win for the business and the retailer and the consumer.
Yeah, totally.
About TrueFit.
So TrueFit is, we invented the size and fit solution back in 2010, but the initial founders met in 2005, and also really passionate about the customer, really passionate about solving the issue, which is size and fit. So over the 12 plus years, the platform has been absorbing data across global brands and retailers. And, we've transacted in over $300 billion worth of sales and returns. We've absorbed 17,000 brands, product catalogs. Wow. We have, sort of millions using the platform. So what we call the genome, which is the brains of the platform, is ingesting, and the algorithms are really sort of observing and fine-tuning moment by moment. So what we do is we approach the problem of size and fit from two angles, as I always explain it, and we deliver pure one-to-one personalized recommendation. So we take a brand's product catalog and their sizing, and we normalize it. We know that there's an inconsistency of size structure within fashion brands across the UK high street, as an example. Then you open it globally to the world and it's a bit like, but then we also know that even within a brand, there can be inconsistencies on sizing dependent on where the item is manufactured. So we normalize the sizing. And so if something comes up, is a size large, but it comes up as a size medium, let's say, we look at that sort of information and we correct it for the customer. So we normalize the product catalog from a retailer's perspective. We then create an individual thumbprint, let's say, for each customer, each registered user and member of TrueFit. So they know me, they understand what size I am, but also what size I prefer my items to be. So I always kind of like jackets that are a little bit oversized, t-shirts that are a little bit sort of tighter. So actually it's all very well having size and fit solutions, but you also need to understand what the customer's preference is in how they wear it. And then we bring the two together. And that's what really makes TrueFit unique. The other thing that's really important is we then give that data back to the retailer or brand, which is another really rare part of what we do, because many other size and fit solutions retain the data themselves and they don't pass it and give it back. So what that enables our partners to do is to really create these hyper-personalized experiences within their CRM campaign, and within even just the customer experience, or the customer journey rather. So if you look at, let's say, JD Sports, we have size and fit recommendation on the product listing page. So that will tell me when I'm looking through all the sort of, you know, the trainers or whatever it might be, it will tell me what size I need to be in that brand. And it will also, if it doesn't show the size, it's because it's not available in my size. So it's just it really enhances. We believe that we should not be a friction point in the experience. We should be there to ease the customer experience and help the customer convert. We're not there to create barriers of consideration. So yeah.
I love it. And what I love is, again, this isn't just a process. This is not just a thing that, as you say, sits on someone else's platform. There's a true emotional connection, not only with obviously the way you describe it, but in everything I've read, and even the usability being on the site itself. But what struck me, and I know we've spoken about this before, and actually I think it's going to strike a chord with an awful lot of people when I say it, that the impact on the customer, you've said, the negative emotional connection that it can create when you've bought something online that you think is a size 10 or a 12, and it gets home and it doesn't fit you. And that really struck an emotional chord with me. It happens all the time, and it's not on anymore.
No, and it really upsets me as well, because I know how it feels to go in and have your day ruined because you know you can't find anything because you don't either feel that anything fits you, or, and you know what, it's not on, and it doesn't need to be that way. And retailers and brands need to wake up to the sizing inconsistency within their catalogue and the impact that it does have emotionally to their customer, be them, you know, he, she, they, but also, you know, for teenagers. And it's things like that that make me really angry that we haven't sorted ourselves out yet, and we don't understand how, you know, there is these, it's almost like just the constant little kind of peckings that can really kind of upset people where we don't need to, and we need to sort of really tighten up our act when it comes to this the size inconsistency within a brand. So yeah, it really upsets me, it really annoys me on behalf of, you know, of the customers.
No, and I agree. It's damaging, as you say, and it comes to an age range, that cohort as well, especially at that early age, where it is shocking that you want to go and order something that you think fits you and it doesn't. And actually, when you think about it realistically, fashion has such an impact on who we are, what we do, how we feel, that it's incredible that it's taken such a strong brand. And I know it's a real driver for your brand to get this fit consistency, to give that smile or that true emotional connection to the customer. And again, it's something that seems so obvious and hasn't been done. So it's joyous that actually, again, it's taken a company like TrueFit to say, hold on, this is the way it needs to be. It's not a nice to do. It actually should be compulsory that we know the size that your brand is.
Totally. And if retailers and brands are willing to accept the fact that their range, their clothes can boost a woman or a man or anyone's confidence, then we also have to accept the fact that it can do the opposite as well.
Yeah.
And we forget that, conveniently, we forget that part. We don't focus on it because it's okay. But actually, because we've seen this digital acceleration, because many of the stores were closed, retailers started to see the issues that they were having with sizing, because it was just sitting dormant in warehouses. Whereas if it's in the stock, if it's in a store, it moves around. It's, you know, it's kind of not quite so visible. But when it's sitting there and it's visible, you start to go, yeah, okay. So we're talking to a lot of brands and retailers across the EU, and I think everyone is starting to wake up and see it as this should be a positive thing and not just let's just tick a box and pretend the issue isn't our problem, because it is our problem.
Absolutely. And I suppose then coming back to something that you've talked about, and something that's really, I'm going to be really honest, I hadn't really thought about it when it came to ecom, but I read that you'd said that data-driven consumer experiences, TrueFit builds and establishes trust and loyalty. So here we are now with this whole ecom, part of retail, which is growing, as you said, at this phenomenal rate. But we're now starting to introduce the whole human skills aspect to e-commerce, trust, loyalty, integrity, all these things that we want from people that we buy from, and you're delivering it.
Yeah, but again, for me, it's almost a bit of a no-brainer. If I am going to a store, and let's take out kind of economic kind of impact for a moment, because that does change things. But if I'm going regularly to a store, I am time poor. A lot of people are, and it's not relevant to sort of demographic sort of cohorts. Everyone, you might have sort of you might be a primary school teacher. You might work in the city. Everyone's time is valuable to them, and if you can help get me to what I want, because you understand me, you understand my size, and you're just delivering in front of me more and more products that I want, that I like, then that's kind of driving the one of the first kind of pillars of loyalty, because it's convenience. Online ultimately is there for convenience. And I've always said omnichannel is great, but you do need to understand what each of your channels is there to deliver. So online is about more options to see sort of range, and it's about ease of accessibility, and that's fine. But just work to it and enhance it and do that really, really well. And you will find that is one of the key pillars of loyalty. What we find with TrueFit is we take regular shoppers and we turn them into Uber shoppers for our partners, because there's this trust element, there's this confidence in the size. And so people tend to buy more. And I think that, that's a great thing, because both sides win. There's the customer gets what they like, and there's a trust element. And it's about removing that cognitive and that hesitation in the customer experience and the customer journey, which is really, really important when you're trying to build a world-class digital platform.
It's incredible. It really, really is. Data, when it comes to the average e-com site out there, maybe it's a small to medium-sized retailer, from what you've seen that TrueFit can pull, what sort of data should retailers be looking at, using, kind of almost, enhancing and embracing, that they are collecting that they don't realize they have?
Yeah, well, we have started to partner with BigQuery and Google. So we work with them and other leading platforms as well to help our partners mine the data. But essentially, it's about really driving that hyper personalization from a CRM campaign. But it's also about, one of the challenges that I always had was that sometimes the data it wasn't sort of in real time to mine. So you had data in different parts of the business, dependent on where that data was coming from, be it sort of, if it was historical sales data, it would be sat within the buying and merchandising teams, or then it might be with e-com or digital marketing, etc. We have this one point of view, which means that you can slice your data in so many different ways. You can, and it's relevant to so many different parts of the business. So retailers, brands should be looking at, how can I drive full price selling as a key? How can I ensure that my inventory volumes aligned to who my demographic are. And, you know, there are parts of that data that can really be used to aid the buying teams or the design teams, and also can really can be used to aid and solve for size and fit at, you know, at the point of design. And the point of manufacture. So that's kind of like, it's almost like going back to basics and making sure that, you know, let's just kind of get really data hygiene tight on every touch point. So, you know, so it's sort of that element. We then help to understand, you know, cohorts, age groups, locality, you know, that again, another basic, but then we can really kind of laser in and go deep into sort of different parts of a better understanding of the customer. You know, who are you targeting on your social channels, and how are you engaging and using that data for CRM? So there are all these different points. And then, you know, there should be, retailers should be looking at predictive habits as well. So let's get a better understanding of what they might be wanting to buy in advance. And so I think that's the really kind of exciting part as well. So yeah, so the data is there that really can be used to slice and dice and make it a real sort of personalized one-to-one experience for the partner's core customer.
I love that. Back to basics with data. I think there's a real message there. Use it. I think that's the first point of call, as you've said there. Get back to basics with it and actually use what you have, because there's so much out there. An interesting one, and I don't know if you have an answer to this. What do you think the future of e-com looks like? Short term, long term, where do you think we're going?
I just think it's really exciting. I think it is going to be even more sort of automated in many ways. If you look at how you shop, how I shop, for all things, be it groceries, be it beauty products, be it, you know, fashion or luxury or home or whatever, I think it's about looking at the customer through the lens of not just one product that they're buying, but through the lens of a real 360 of that human and that customer in all different touch points. I think when it comes to the in-store experience, let's dial up technology in store to create this really amazing immersive experience. I think technology is going to be a really, you know, really interesting to watch how we sort of get over the current issues around augmented reality with regards to the fitting room, you know, where any sort of see what it looks like type of technologies, but the experience is really bad. And, you know, do not put anything live on your website until the experience is absolutely spot on, because it's just embarrassing. You're not doing yourself any favors. And the customer, why on earth would they use it? Why? You know, again, that goes back to think like a customer, be that customer. And yeah, so I just think everything is going to be connected. You know, I was reading articles about the car industry and cars now, with the ability to sense your heart rate when you're driving.
Wow.
And massage, sort of seat massage kind of kicks in, and then the temperature adjusts in your car, and you know, it might even make an appointment for, you know, for a massage. Everything is going to be connected together. And I just think that's just so exciting. But let's not forget that we're humans who still need human connections. So we're not going to completely live in this virtual world. Don't go too far down a rabbit hole, but always strive to to always create the solution to just take a monkey off someone's back, you know, make it easier for them, make it a no-brainer.
I love that human to human connection. It's definitely all to play for. So look, final question then, what's coming up for you or even the brand TrueFit over the next few months?
Oh my God. So I only get more competitive as
Love
I
it.
go. So things that are happening for TrueFit are, you know, the business is really accelerating in the EU and beyond, which I'm so excited about, and that drives me even more. So doing, you know, really sort of through the lens of how can we create an enhanced experience for the customer. And we've got some really exciting sort of next generation product launching this year. And, you know, staying close to the product team in the US to, you know, to really to understand what's also coming down the tracks in terms of the capabilities of AI. We're always looking at next sort of level innovations in technology as a business to potentially partner with as well. So yeah, so from our perspective, I'm passionate about growing our sort of our presence in the EU, and I'm loving it. Me personally, that's kind of what I love to do. So yeah.
How exciting. Oh, I'm really, really looking forward to see what's coming down the road then. So look, before I let you go today, just to say, if you've enjoyed today's podcast, please like, share and subscribe. Connect with Sarah, follow her on LinkedIn. Sarah, it's been an absolute pleasure today. Thank you so much for being on the Retail Tea Break.
Oh, thank you so much for asking. I've loved it.
Brilliant stuff. Take care, everyone.